If overwhelm was on the radar of the WHO, I would be willing to bet that it would be classified as a pandemic with two culprits: external attention seekers and internal expectations. One continuously distracting us, while the other keeps us preoccupied with our ego. I've already made a video about how to keep the external stimuli at bay, which I can link down below. But in this video, I wanted to mostly focus on how we can channel our expectations to move us towards our goals. When it comes to setting goals, the end destination for most people tends to be quite vague. Most of us have a rough idea of where we want to end up or who we want to be, but the image is not clearly defined. Having a clear image helps us work backwards and break down the goal into small action steps which we can take one by one. It also helps us distinguish between what is urgent compared to what is important. Important are those tasks that are closely aligned with our goals. They are usually the ones that after we partake in them, it leaves us feeling accomplished. Urgent, on the other hand, are those tasks that are mostly related to our day-to-day admin of life. They can sometimes disguise themselves as important and take up most of our time, which then prevents us from making any meaningful movement towards our intrinsic goals. To bring forward some clarity towards what we ought to be doing on the regular basis, it might be useful to break down our lives into different categories. An example of those categories are work, hobbies and trips, admin and finance, things to do for your health, things you do for your home, and relationship with other people. For each area, come up with the tasks and projects that fall underneath each category. Projects being a collection of tasks that contribute towards an outcome. Now, we know that setting goals is completely different to pursuing a goal, so let's try and make that process as enjoyable as possible. Pay yourself first. Just like how we would budget our income, you can apply the same principle to your time. Instead of waiting for the moment that you finally have enough time, actively carve out periods that you assign to the tasks and projects that are important to you in your day and week. If we don't do this, our days usually end up being consumed by the daily urgent tasks, and the important ones get left untouched. Another thing that helps is to limit your works in progress. Having too many balls in the air causes us to lose focus on what matters. Given that it is inevitable to feel some sort of resistance when we're moving towards a goal, if we have too many projects open, when we hit that point that the task is either too boring or too hard, we tend to just jump ship and start doing something else. And doing this too often can prevent us from making any meaningful progress towards our goals. One other thing that is very helpful and also allows us to open up bandwidth is avoiding second-tier priorities. Whether you like it or not, we don't have enough time to do everything that we feel an affinity towards. Whether it is a friendship that you kinda enjoy or a semi-interesting job opportunity. Most often than not, if your internal dialogue doesn't automatically jump at it, that means that that opportunity probably doesn't align with your most important priorities. Therefore, it's probably best to leave it alone and say no to it. Now let's go through some troubleshooting when it comes to setting up a task list for ourselves. The to-do list is not the adversary. It can be the source of optimizing our productivity. But if we don't set it up in a way that is enjoyable, it can be the source of negativity that consumes our lives. Therefore, if you're feeling negatively towards your to-do list because of overwhelm, there's a good chance that you have overcommitted yourself. That means there's a mismatch between reality and your ideal day, week, or month. For some reason, we all just tend to put the hard and tasking stuff on our to-do list. This is a sure way of feeling resentment towards our to-do list. The thing that helps with this is to actually schedule your fun things. We all partake in little me time activities, whether it is hanging out with friends, watching a TV show that we love, or just going outside, having a walk, or grabbing ice cream. Therefore, by putting your fun stuff on your to-do list also, you give yourself something to look forwards to and mitigate that negative feeling towards your to-do list. Another common issue is that if you have enough time in your day, but you're not happy with what gets done, that is a sign that you have a priority problem. To mitigate this, you need to employ some introspection to figure out what is actually important to you. One way of pinpointing out what is the most important to you is figuring out which tasks you feel the most amount of resistance towards, because those tasks correlate with the most amount of contentment after having ticked them off. One last thing to look out for is productivity purgatory. This is a term that was coined by Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast. These days, it is quite common to witness ourselves or somebody close to us partake in activities that are intrinsically restorative, with the preconceived notion that we're only doing that because it helps with our productivity. Whether it is going for a walk in the park, reading a book, exercising, doing a cold plunge. We don't do them because it feels good and it makes us feel good. We do it because we've heard Andrew Huberman or somebody tell us that if you do this, you end up being more productive. Therefore, we end up sucking out the joy out of the experience because we're not in the moment experiencing the positive aspects of those restorative activities. The whole time we're thinking about, oh, if I'm going on this walk, it's going to make me feel better so I can do more. Therefore, it is very important to have set activities and hobbies that we do just for the sake of doing those. Now, just to tie everything up, let's talk about how we can keep ourselves on the right path. When we have set up our goals and figured out what our internal motivation towards that goal is, one thing that helps is writing down exactly what we want to do for what purpose and what we want to achieve, and then putting that aside. After having done that, obviously we get started on moving towards our goals, but inevitably, after a set period of time, usually we feel lost and directionless. At that point, this thing that we set down can act like an anchor to remind us why we started on this journey. So you can go back, read over your notes, and get clarity on why you're doing the tasks that you're doing. If you like this video and you want to prevent yourself from getting distracted by external stimuli, I'll link my video around here. Catch you in the next one.